Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast, where we discuss the realest, rawest, most relevant stories and strategies behind building every corner of a blue collar business. I'm your host, Cy Kirby, and I want to help you. What it took me, trial and error, and a whole lot of money to learn. The information that no one in this industry is willing to share. Whether you're under that shade tree or have your hard hat on, let's expand your toolbox. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Blue Collar Business Podcast, brought to you and sponsored. Today's episode is by Paydirt Support. They're your absolute key partner in precise takeoffs for excavation and earthwork projects, from accurate quantity takeoffs, estimating, and 3D GPS modeling. Paydirt gives the excavation contractors the data they need to plan smarter and win more bids. Visit paydirtsupport.com to build more profitable projects with confidence. Get with the team over there. Tell them I sent you. I tell you guys just about every episode, but I've personally used them within SciCon. They are not just a sponsor, but a partner as well with things that we do internally monthly. So go check them out. Today, guys, we have a legend on our show today, a legend in his own lane. He was doing all of everything that we think is cool. He was doing it 30 years ago. And gentlemen, I believe he's probably going to be the eldest entrepreneur that I still have active that is on this show. And don't let his age fool you, because this gentleman is a wealth of experience and knowledge I've learned just in a few phone calls with him. But we are diving off into a little bit of the education lane, but also to what you can work towards and getting there and building your own vision of, it's not just about building a company, it's also helping others along the way. And this gentleman figured that out very, very early on. Founder and president of International Office Moving Institute, IOMI. Basically been helping movers since 1987 in the commercial moving industry. He was former founder, president of Peachtree Movers in Atlanta. Huge metropolis there from 1976 to 2000. The company did over 50,000 successful local office moves and earned Atlanta's Consumer's Choice Award. He's also invented for the industry, developed a term called the boxless move method, patented moving equipment to essentially support that, but also he's authored 4 books on commercial relocation. Previously taught business and marketing at Georgia Highlands State College. And he's also put out just a wealth of knowledge out there for businesses, but specifically movers today, a different take on the industry. This gentleman absolutely obsessed about it, got it fixed, and I am really super motivated to hear the end of this episode. Guys, furthermore, Mr. Ed Katz, thank you so much for joining me, sir.
Well, let's give the facts a little bit more than all these wonderful accolades you just gave me. First of all, you got 100 points this morning for your DEI qualifications when you do work with the federal government, because you hired somebody from the nursing home here. So we're going to make sure you get your credit for that. And you said legend. I think I'm a legend in my own mind. I tell my friends, I'm the self-proclaimed, self-ordained minister of office moving. Just ask me, right? So I don't know, whatever that's worth. Thank you for the wonderful, wonderful introduction, though. I was thinking in the middle of the night when I was on my third wee-wee break, and you guys don't know what the hell I'm talking about because you're all young. You're like my grandchildren. That's all you are. But I was on my third wee-wee break, and I thought, do you know who Cy really is? You are the Mike Rowe of the construction industry. You know who Mike Rowe is?
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's who you are, and you're a mentor, and you're helping all these other companies. Kudos to you. You're so lucky to have. I'm serious. That's who you are. 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's what I was thinking about. Anyhow.
Well, that would be unbelievable to get him onto this show. That would be the absolute pinnacle for here. And I'm really a little taken back that you would even compare us to him. But you know what? He did something that wasn't cool He showed the uncool, inhabitable positions that people do every single day to feed their families. And there's a lot of that in the blue collar world, but it's good paying work and it needs done and it's going to be reoccurring next month and there's security there. And, but no, I almost got to meet Mike a couple of weeks ago out there at Con Expo, and I didn't realize he was a keynote speaker, and we had flew out just a couple hours previous before he was speaking. So would have loved to get to meet him, but along the same message, Mike's got an unbelievable message of just trying to bring awareness. Now, I'm doing it more on an individual lane, kind of like yourself. And guys, that's where I got to meet Mr. Ed, is through a mutual friend that is doing extremely well as well in his own lane. And I was kind of talking about him from the software perspective. You know, again, I'm just a ditch digger, and now I'm learning all this media stuff, and I've got an unbelievable team helping me. But at the same time, it was trying to navigate the other things that we're doing in this media lane, trying to help the industry. How would it come across? How do you cover costs? And, you know, that similar acquaintance literally said, you have got to hang up the phone and call Mr. Ed. Mr. Ed has thought about this, obsessed about this, and has brought it to the market in so many different ways. So take us back a little bit, sir. Doing business in the 70s and 80s. I mean, a lot of these guys, including myself, weren't born. Take us back through a little bit of that time, because, you know, I hear all the time that, and has it always been like this? You know, chasing people for money and invoice to invoice. But anyhow, start us off back there. Talk about a little bit about the moving expansion, maybe some struggles and strife that you dealt with over the years, but then we can kind of walk in the lane of, you know, you realizing through doing this and the pain points that you suffered, you're like, oh, everybody goes through this. I can help everybody. Give us the rundown, Mr. Ed.
Okay. Can you hear me, by the way, everybody?
Wonderful.
Okay. Because you're fading a little bit, just so you know.
Oh, okay.
All right. Anyhow, my background is totally unrelated to what I ended up doing. I went to the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs, where I got a master's degree. Look at me. Totally related to what I did, right? Ended up on Wall Street, worked on Wall Street in New York City for 4 years. I escaped from Wall Street, hated New York, moved to the promised land, Atlanta, Georgia. And for a year, I was leasing office space. But while I was leasing office space, I think one of the most important things I tell my clients, who I try to be a mentor to, is I identified a need in the moving industry when I was leasing office space. I would get leads of companies that were moving, and I'd call up the movers and I'd say, hey, if I give you a lead and you end up moving them, would you pay me a small commission or finder's fee? Yeah, sure. They never called them. They could care less about office moving, the movers in Atlanta. And there were hundreds of movers even back when I was starting my pilgrimage in Atlanta. So a year after floundering and failing in the real estate business, I said, I got to do something. I know I'm totally unmanageable. I can't work for somebody else. I think I better start my own company. So I knew nothing about business, nothing at all. My degree was worthless. And what I found was the competition specialized in everything. They were household good movers. That's who they were. And when they were slow, they would fill in with office moving. So I had all these contacts with all these office buildings in Atlanta. And I said to myself, wow, maybe I could leverage them and specialize in local office moving. So because I identified the need that there's inconsistent service, jobs don't finish on time for the price quoted, there's damage. They put companies out of business the next working day many times. They didn't have a formula for estimating accurately. All these things, I thought. So I think one of the most important things that I tell young or new entrepreneurs is if you can identify the need, that's like you're 90% of the way down the field towards the goal line. You really are. And that's what I did, identified the need. So after my floundering in the real estate business, I wrote a letter to every moving company in Atlanta. And I said, look, I'll even work for free for 2 weeks if you want. I want to start my own company. Will you hire me? I'll be a mover helper, entry level. I just want to learn the business. One company hired me, and I worked for free the first 2 weeks. And then I was there for 6 months, and I was a mover. I was a lumper, they called them. I did really terrible work. I mean, to this day, I am not physically fit. I don't know how I ever did it, but I did that for 6 months. And then November 1st, 1976, I started my moving company. My claim to fame is this: I have made every frigate mistake you could possibly make in running a company. I mean, you name it, I have made every mistake known to man that you could possibly make, but I've made each and every one of them no more than once. And what I mean by that is this: every day, I was like Job. I used to thank God that I didn't have all the problems happen at the same time on the same day, because where I worked, suicide was not an option. You think I'm kidding you? You know how many times I was close to a nervous breakdown with problems that would happen? But think about it. Moving companies are always in warehouse-type buildings. So it's a single-story building. If I try to commit suicide by jumping out of the window, the worst that would happen to me, I'd be flat on my back, staring at a hospital ceiling for the rest of my life, paralyzed from the neck down. So suicide was not an option. I had to figure out a way of fixing everything that was going wrong. So when we had a problem, it wasn't that we were going to eliminate problems. We were going to instead prevent problems from becoming crises. And let me give you one stupid example. So I'm in business about 3 or 4 months, and we're doing a move on a Friday evening. We have a truck loaded with furniture. Of course, it's an hour away from my warehouse. I get a call from my supervisor: Mr. Katz, we just blew the right front tire. We can't get to the destination. What do we do? Well, what do you do? There's no such thing as apps or Google or internet. This is 1977. So I go through the yellow pages, and there's pages and pages of companies that sell tires in Atlanta, big city. And I'm calling them. You think anybody ever answered? You think anybody ever responded to my need for a tire company? Hell no. So what do I do next? I call a tow truck company. If any of you have ever called a tow truck company, I don't mean for your car. I don't mean 3As. I mean a tow truck company. You have to wake Billy Bob up, right? He's got to have a few drinks to make sure he's awake. And it took 2.5 hours for that truck to get there. By the way, do you think my guys were off the clock or on the clock? Do you think the customer was happy or unhappy? We towed the truck to the destination, the new location, right? They need the furniture. The guy's still it's like a taxi cab, but it's like $1,000 an hour. I mean, back then, that's what it was like. Anyhow, we get the truck unloaded, and then they tow it back to our base. I learned a lesson. You got to have a process and a system for every contingency that might happen. So what did I do? I spent the next several days talking to managers and owners of tire companies. And I said to myself, I don't care what it costs to buy tires from this company. I want a company that can service me 24/7. So they're not if, but when this happens again, I'm going to have a resource I can call who is going to respond in a timely manner. I ended up being with that tire company, staying with them for most of my career as an owner of a moving company in Atlanta, because they serviced me to death. And I did that with companies that would fix and repair trucks that had mobile units. So it's a process. It's a system. It gave me a life. So that's one of the most important things I'd like to tell you. The other thing I learned is this: if you can identify the need, as we did, we were going to specialize in local office moving. Now, initially, we did local residential and local office moving. But once we really started building up our core business, we became known as the office mover in Atlanta. And I learned that the moving industry applied the household good residential formula of cubic feet and pounds to office moves. And if there was an elevator, they said, we'll just add 10%. Or if there was a long carry or a loading dock or whatever, they add another 10%. Or if there are steps, you add another 20%, whatever. And I learned early on, there is absolutely no relationship between cubic feet and pounds, the residential formula, and estimating an office move. So here I am. Again, I really felt like I was Job. It's now 6 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. We're supposed to finish this job at 5 o'clock. I'm out on the job, running the job. We have 2 more truckloads to unload. My formula that I was using, which is what all the other movers were using, based on cubic feet and pounds, is way off. The customer's angry. My men want to mutiny. Any of you have any crews out that ever want to mutiny because of weather conditions or the job itself or the hours that they're out there? Well, my men want to leave and walk off the job. I'm now driving around the area. It's called North Lake Mall area. Anybody that's breathing, standing on a street corner, I'm saying, I'll pay you $12 cash an hour if you come help me unload some trucks. I pick up 2 guys, unload it. We get it fixed. We get it unloaded. Here again, identified the need. I got to find a formula that works. So what I did was I went outside the box. I stopped following the followers. And I started studying other service industries. And I said to myself, wait a second. If they can build the Georgia Pacific building in downtown Atlanta that's 50 stories high, they know exactly how long it's going to take to excavate the foundation. They're going to know how long it's going to take to anchor the building to the ground with the piling. So they're going to know how long it's going to take to build a floor of iron, and they're building 50 floors. Because all this stuff, the sheetrock, the steel, the glass, the skin of the building, that's not in somebody's warehouse. It's just in time. It's either it's in the factory, it's on a truck on its way to the job. If they can figure that out, surely I could learn what they know in their service industries, and I could copy their formula and apply it to the moving industry. Then I could estimate accurately. And that's what I did. I came up with a proprietary formula. I copied what they do in your industry. You probably know how long it takes to excavate. And it's all called man hours, which is a foreign word in the moving industry. What do you mean man hours? Yeah, because it's a man's world. Then it's not woman hours, and it's not men hours. It's man hours, dummy. But anyhow, AEI doesn't like Ed Katz very much. I just want you to know. But anyhow, that aside, I came up with this formula, and I'll tell you, 97.6% of the time, our final bill was what our estimate was. Our jobs finished on time for the price quoted. We had the reputation of you could be sure that you'll be open for business the next working day if you hire P Street movers, all because it's a formula, which is in my online training that I teach movers, half the time, the 13 and a half hours of training, half of the time is spent on this proprietary formula. And it really works. It's all based on man hours. So you got to be able to estimate accurately. If you're an entrepreneur and you own a company and you're a sheetrock company, or you're laying pipe, or you're building a house, you better know how long it's going to take in terms of man hours so you can price it accurately. If you don't have a formula, see, the way they did it in the moving industry, you worked on the back of a truck for 5 years as a lumper, as a mover. And then you transitioned into sales. And you had that experience, and you could just look at the job. My men who never learned my formula, who did these 50,000 local office moves, they could walk into an office without my formula and tell me what I already would figure out on paper. But think about it. Not everybody's going to be able to have the luxury of working in construction, laying pipe, building a house, doing for all those years, so that you now can quote jobs and book them, right? So the formula gave me a vehicle for taking successful B2B type salesperson, somebody that sold commercial insurance, somebody that sold telephones to companies, somebody who sold office furniture, somebody who leased office space. And I could say, listen, let me teach you my estimating formula. You don't have to work on the back of a truck. Well, all of a sudden, that opened up a whole new world. I didn't have to hire people that came up through the industry who many times, trade people, some of them have closed minds. Would you believe that? Would you
Oh
believe that
man.
there are guys out there that are not open to new ways of doing things? Oh, well, in my industry, we had people that, when I worked at United Van Lines, we didn't do it that way. Or when I worked at North American Van Lines, we didn't do it that way. I stopped hiring people that worked for other moving companies because they didn't want to grow with us. And I used to have to say to people, I love you. You're a great employee. You show up for work. But if you don't do it our way, you're going to either grow with us or without us. And then, isn't that a sad thing? But anyhow, that's just a sidebar. So you gotta have some way. Somebody's got to teach you how to estimate the job, whether it's you're a moving company or you're in the construction industry. If you're just, shooting from the hip, you're going to wake up one day and you may get a job that because you were the lowest bidder, and I mean really the lowest bidder. And now what are you going to do? And it's not a $500 job. It could be several $100,000 job. And now what are you going to do?
No, I think you hit some really great points home. Number one, obviously, estimation, and you're kind of like standing there going, well, I don't really have any other system to follow, and stating that stop following the followers. That I think I'm going to use throughout this year. In a lot of things that we're doing on the media side, we kind of have pioneered. There's not a whole lot of commercial construction guys wanting to sit behind a microphone and tell them their whole business scheme to you. Like, there's just not as many people doing that. But everybody's following somebody, right? Well, so-and-so across the town and doesn't do that. Or, well, these people don't do that. Well, he does it, but yeah, that's him. So, but you're exactly right. And learning that estimation process is unbelievably crucial before you even do the work, before you get there, before you labor the work, all the things, is to have a good understanding of your estimate. But, you were saying your guys had gone, you could go into an office space and just, bam, look at it, know what's going to take, and your numbers are going to work out. Well, that's also, too, a testament of you figuring out early that, oh, maybe I don't have to move everything in the moving industry. Maybe I can just move a certain type of certain scope of movement. And, I can talk about myself from the pipe side of things. You just immediately think dirt, bolts right that together because you're a civil guy, and asphalt and curb and concrete. And you can get so quickly caught up in a whole bunch of different lanes that's pulling your attention and focus in so many different areas. And I did that. I 100% did that. But in the last 3 years, I have really cut and carved, got us back down to the pipe lane, concentrated on being the best pipe guy in the area. Doesn't matter by far, by none. But it's riches in the niches, and stick to one lane. Like, these industries, say you're an electrician. Well, there's a difference between a service call electrician and a guy that goes out there and ropes houses. Concrete guys. Well, there's a difference in the guy that pours a flat sidewalk and a guy that pours an elevated manhole. Plumbers. I can go on and on and on. What I'm saying is, guys, is you pick an industry, then, just like Mr. Ed said, find that lane that best fits for you. And if there's a need and a problem, and you can take care of that need and problem with a system that you can find repeatable, man, you've got half the, like 90%, as Ed said, like the battle is already done. You just got to figure out the processes to repeat getting them in and out of that door. And making mistakes, that's the coolest thing about this show, is I bring people every single week, talk a lot about my mistakes, but to hear other people that, are so prestigious like yourself have learned from mistakes, but only learning that mistake one time. Don't get me wrong. Are you going to hover around that problem again? You absolutely are. But from the experience of you flat screwing it up the first time is not going to let you get to that point and make that mistake again. Now you make a version of that mistake, but hey, let's point to our system. How did we get to this point? Maybe we've got to adjust the system that we put in place. They're living systems. They're not one and done. This does it all. It's just not possible in our world. Things are changing. I mean, the development of AI and everything off in the last 5 years is literally just game changing everything from the administrative side. But back to your point, Mr. Ed, of estimating the job, I think what a lot of guys get so caught up, they don't even, number one, understand their cost of what it takes to get through a day, a week, a month. I was one of those guys till a couple of years ago of actually not semi-knowing your costs, not like kind of knowing it. I kind of knew it for years, but I'm talking about every wire nut, every little fork to a restaurant is what I'm trying to talk. I'm talking about minimalistic costs. You better know what it cost you and be able to cover that some way with an overhead or burden or whatever it may be. But estimating the job, getting it down to a formula, and you started running with this formula and probably thought, and I'm hoping you take it from here, is, I think other people could probably benefit from this formula, huh?
Yeah, well, not just yet, because the first 5 years we took over Atlanta. We owned the office moving market. Would you believe that? Everything I touched turned to gold. Remember, self-proclaimed, self-ordained minister of office moving? That's what I was. But I forgot, God had given me a middle name, Job. And one day I wake up and there's a company that came from Chicago called Neptune Moving. And it wasn't fair because they were 10 times larger than we were. They had special, they called pup trailers. They were like 30 feet long, built just for office moves with flat floors. And our biggest move that we had done was like a $25,000, $30,000 move. This company moved Sears into their headquarters in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Where I owned 200 four-wheel dollies, they owned 2,000. Where I had 20 employees, they put 150 on the street. And then the worst thing that happened, not only did they have the reputation, they had all these trucks, they had deep pockets. When they first came to Atlanta with their 10 trailers that were built just for office moving, they were just driving them around up 75, up 85, around the Beltway, just visibility. They were 10% cheaper than Peachtree Movers, my company. So I wake up one day, and it's not fair. I mean, I recognized the need. I came up with the formula, but I couldn't. I mean, who would you hire? The company had a stellar reputation that was really a company that was huge, that had assets and resources, and were never booked. I mean, they were never at capacity because they had all this capacity and 10% cheaper. Or would you hire the guy with a peach on the side of his logo on his truck? Overnight, I lost my market share, and I tried advertising on the radio, and I tried magazine advertising, newspaper advertising. Nothing worked. And those of you who don't know me, nobody knows me. I'm a very spiritual person. I had just become a Christian, born and raised Jewish, but I had just become a Christian. And I said, this is not fair, right? And I have to give credit where credit's due. I am very spiritual. And what happened was I kept having a vision of something else was going on in my mind because I was so desperate. Like I tried everything and nothing worked. Oh, we went door to door and handed out flyers, coupons. Nothing worked. Till finally I tried something I never tried in my life before. I listened to the customer. I mean, really listen. And for years, the 5 years I had already been in business, every time we quote a job, somebody would say to me, hey, we're just moving from one floor to the other, or we're moving from one side of the floor to the other, or we're just moving 6 miles down the road. They all said 6 miles down the road. I don't know what. But anyhow, do we have to empty our furniture? And I said, like all the other sheep and all the other followers and all the other movers, yes, you have to empty the furniture so that when we dolly it up to get it through the doorway and onto the elevator, it doesn't go all over the floor and doesn't destroy the furniture. Of course, you have to empty it. Well, I heard that hundreds of times in the 5 years that I was in business when I was successful. But why would I pay attention to the customer? Because I didn't need to. I didn't have to. I owned the market.
Yeah.
But no more. So I really prayed, and I'm telling you, this came through divine intervention. And this, believe me, I'm just an average person. I'm not smart. I kept having this vision of inflating airbags inside of desk drawers to immobilize the contents so that we can move the contents in the furniture. And not only did I envision that, but I saw a bottle jack attached to an engine hoist. Like, what the heck am I talking about now? I'm not mechanically inclined, but I saw how they lifted an engine out of a car, and I said, I wonder if I could somehow pick lateral file cabinets up. Everybody had lateral file cabinets that had all their confidential personnel files and company files and everything. No such thing as a cloud for you kids that don't know what a file cabinet is. Everything was hard paper. They had hundreds and hundreds of lateral file cabinets. Everybody had lateral file cabinets, but you had to totally empty them. Or if you try to move them with the contents in them, they could weigh 1,000 pounds. They could torque, bend, and be ruined, so that every time you open and close a drawer, it would stick or rub, or you close one drawer, the next one opens. So you had to totally empty them. So I started telling my fellow employees about my vision of the airbags in this device for moving lateral file cabinets full. And what do you think they all said? Like, great idea. What do you think? They were all negative. So the first thing I learned is when you have a new idea, unless you have a mentor like Cy, you don't tell anybody, because most people are miserable. You don't realize it. I hate to be so cynical, but I'm allowed. I'm 81 years old. They're jealous of you. They don't want you to be happy. They're going to be negative. No, I don't think that's going to work. So everybody told me it's not going to work, not going to work. Anyhow, finding somebody to make the airbags, I went to a waterbed manufacturer. I had him at an outrageous amount of money make me 2 or 3 prototype miniature waterbeds. I thought maybe high air compression, blow them up. No, I used a commercial hair dryer. Let you blow wind. And I made a snorkel out of it. And when nobody was looking, I inflated inside the desk drawers with contents in them, got 2 movers that turned it up on a dolly, shook it, opened it up. Nothing fell out. It worked. If you saw the original prototype, it doesn't look like what I ended up with a year later. But anyhow, it worked. And then back in the day, I spent like $8,000 or $10,000 on the first prototype of this spider crane. I called it Spider Crane because it had 2 14-inch diameter suction cups. And we were going to create a vacuum and suck this cabinet off the floor to pick it up straight without tipping it or torquing it, putting it on a special low-gravity steel dolly. Well, here I'm on a roll because these space garbers are really working. I mean, I'm starting to get clients again because everybody had a desk, no modular furniture. Everybody had a desk. And I'm starting to take business away from this big giant mover, Neptune. But now I'm on a roll. So $10,000 later, about a year and a half later, I call all my employees, front office and movers into the warehouse. I'm going to show them. I have a lateral file cabinet fully loaded, weighs about 1,000 pounds. And I lower these 2 giant suction cups over the top with what looks like a miniature engine hoist with a bottle jack. You could have heard a pin drop. I mean, everybody's like, wow, this guy's a genius. And yeah, you're right. You must know Ed Katz, right? And I start using the bottle jack with the lever and I'm pumping him. Do any of you, old enough to remember the movie with the Coneheads? What was the name of that movie? Dan Aykroyd. Remember the Coneheads?
I'm not a movie guy. There's probably
Oh,
somebody listening
anyhow, can you
screaming at us
imagine?
right now.
Can you imagine a head looking like an upside down cone? Whatever. That's what happened to the top of that lateral file cabinet. The suction cups worked beautifully, and it went, and the top bowed and bent. That was the first time I ever tried to do it, and I did it in front of an audience. And all these movers and my fellow employees, they're like, look at that. They thought it was so funny and hilarious. And I'm sick as a dog. I can't believe I'm going to throw up. I'm so sad. I spent all this money and I destroyed the top of this cabinet. I destroyed the cabinet. Believe me, if you don't think I'm down on my knees that night praying to God like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I says, it's just not fair. This is what you go through when you're outside the box and you're trying to innovate. You have failures. Was it, who invented the light bulb?
Edison,
Thomas Edison, right?
I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Anyhow, I have a reason not to remember. But anyhow, Thomas Edison had 10,000 failures till he got the right one. So anyhow, I had a vision after praying so hard to have something flat in between the cups so that when the cabinet tried to bend and bow, that flat piece of wood would prevent it from bowing. Without an audience, the next day, another lateral file cabinet, nobody's looking, filled to the brim with paper. It worked perfectly. I ended up calling that the spider crane, and the airbags that went inside the desk drawers were called space cobblers. So the next thing I learned was you have to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. We were the only moving company actually in the world at the time that could move the contents in the furniture instead of the contents and the furniture. I called it the boxless move. Do you know that 2 years later, Neptune went bankrupt? They went out of business because who would you rather move with? Somebody that made you pack up, put you out of business a day or two before the move, mix up all your files, use cardboard containers, boxes that filled landfills and killed trees, or somebody who came in who saved the environment, guaranteed no mix-up or lost files. You could work right up until the time the movers arrived to do the move. And you were open for business the next working day. And guess what? Our price was double everybody else's. Double. Not 10% more. Double. Because we differentiated ourselves in the marketplace. So all of a sudden, I got the formula. I got the boxless move. All this is coming together. I got these processes. So I end up, it's so funny how life is. I never planned, if it hadn't been for Neptune nearly driving me out of business, there would be no spider crane and space cobblers. Think about it. Adversity builds character. That's why I'm such a character, right? Because I've been Job all my life. I mean, you wouldn't believe. But God did it because he wanted innovation. He wanted it to change, and it did change. So I have no visions of selling this equipment to anybody. In fact, I only used it for my moving company in Atlanta. Next thing I know, if you know anything about Atlanta, it's not a headquarters town. Yeah, Coca-Cola's there, but other than that, it's not a headquarters town. It's a regional hub. So what happens is people climb in the corporate ladder. They work in Atlanta, and then they get promoted. They go to Chicago headquarters. They go to New York City headquarters. They go to Los Angeles headquarters. So next thing I find out, 5-6 years later, I'm getting calls from movers in Chicago and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Seattle and New York City and Detroit. This guy, we're bidding on his job. He says he's not emptying the furniture. We're not going to get the move unless we buy that crane device of yours or those water beds you use. I said, what are you talking about? He said, what's your boxes move? There's some big moves we're bidding on, and they say we have to move the way you're moving, the way he moved when he was in Atlanta. Now he's in all, these other respective cities. Can you believe the customer drove business to me? Now not only am I the owner of a moving company, I'm selling spider cranes and thousands of space gobblers to movers, not just all over the United States, but all over Canada and the United Kingdom. How the heck did that happen?
The good Lord was blessing
I'm
you,
a
sir.
poor boy from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who failed on Wall Street, who escaped from New York, who doesn't know it. I have a master's degree in public administration and urban renewal. What do I know? How'd this happen? I listened to the customer.
What a story. Literally. I mean,
I wish I could take credit for all this, but you can see why I'm so spiritual. But
100% same here.
So,
God is yours.
and then something else I got to tell you.
Okay.
It just came across my mind. Believe me, I have been humbled many, many, many times. One of the worst things of all was, you know how in a business you're supposed to have a triangle, a triangle like this, and you're at the top right side, and then you have managers below you, you have more managers below them, and then you have the rank and file, right? And you tell the managers what happened and say, well, imagine a moving company with a lot of employees. And maybe I shouldn't tell you this because you're going to think I was so smart till I tell you this. But our company was an upside down triangle. In other words, everybody reported to the self-proclaimed, self-ordained minister of office moving. I was the Grand Mufti. That's who I was. I was so full of myself. They wouldn't even write a letter without my approving it. They wouldn't make a decision. I'm getting calls from my 2 salespeople 12 times a day. Mr. Katz, what do we do? My nickname is now No Life. I don't have a process for managing people. Why? Because I was never taught how to be a manager. I have the answer. I just know everything, right? You can tell by my big mouth right now, right? So the straw that broke the camel's back. We have a big men's room, right? I'm in the men's room. I'm sitting on the can. One of my sales guys comes in. Mr. Katz, are you in there? I don't even want him to know I'm in there, let alone what I'm doing, right? What the hell? I can't even go to the bathroom without. I have a question. I couldn't believe it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I said, you know what? It's my fault. I have created mentally handicapped employees. It's my fault. If you had a choice of maybe making a decision that was wrong and being held accountable or having the boss make the decision, what are you going to do? Yeah. You're not going to make any choices or decisions. That's when I learned from a mentor, the 7 most important words in running a company. You want to know what they are?
I do.
From that moment forward, when I got out of that men's room and one of my other employees came up to me and asked me a question, what do I do? I answered this way. I don't know. What do you think? That's 7 words. Do you ever hear the expression, or have you ever gone hunting and at nights see how deer stare in headlights? That was the reaction I got from my employees. It was almost like they got blindsided. It's like they didn't know what to say, what to do. And I said to them, from now on, it's the new Mr. Katz. I'm entitled to being able to go to the bathroom without being rudely interrupted. And I'll tell you something, and I learned over the years, it's really hard to do what I did. It's really hard to let them it takes extra time. But they were smarter than I gave them credit for. They're the ones touching the customers, the movers, the bookkeepers, the salespeople, the customer service people, not at Katz. And they had great ideas. So I used to tell them, don't come to me with a problem unless you have at least 3 options as to what to do. I swear to you, and I'm not going to swear unless I really mean this. This is the truth. Not only did I teach them to come to me with 3 options, then I would say at the end, before I sold the company, out of the 3, what do you think is the best one? And they were right. To this day, I have a former employee. I'm going to tell you his name. His name is Ian Robbins. He works for another moving company in Atlanta. He's been in the industry all these years since I hired him, since 1981. He's got to be about 62 years old now. To this day, Ian will call me 2 or 3 times a year. Mr. Katz, I have a situation. This is a former employee, but I'm still his mentor, right? I'm still his friend. Yeah, I'm still Mr. Katz to him. Come on, Ian, I'm Ed Katz. But anyhow, Mr. Katz, I have a situation, which means a problem. And he tells me the situation. And then he says to me, and here are my options. And then I finally said, and what do you think you're going to do? Well, I was thinking of, Ian, why do you even waste your time calling me? I'm honored and flattered. You're right. And well, I just want to make sure, Mr. Katz, because I don't, can you believe? To me, that's, excuse me, that's management. Hey, how do you like my RFK Jr. voice impersonation? How I just flipped. See what happens?
No,
when
you're totally fine, but you're exactly right, sir. It's building that leadership, and I had that exact point myself in business where I had 30 plus employees. This wasn't too long ago, 4 years ago, and I literally could not set my phone down. It would give me a heart attack because the next call, the next fire, the next question, the next answer, the next solution, that's all holding up. And in my mind, well, you're holding this up, you're holding up that. You've got to be able to answer this. They can't answer that. And I built this methodology in my head that you have to be in the middle of absolutely everything because that's how you control it. And what I didn't understand is I was building this flatarchy. And here's psi, or a reference of your upside down triangle, Mr. Ed. But here's psi, and then I got everybody else below me. Just on one casted plane. And well, that doesn't help anything. That all bottlenecks to me, and you create, and it was, sorry, last week we were talking about how ownership and leadership gets in the way of growth of the company and the business. And of most importantly, a lot of times, the culture of the people. Because while, Mr. Ed and myself are doing that exact thing, well, that's really good for how we feel. But the rest of our team's pissed off and they're asking, why does he have to be involved with this? Like, does he not see we do this, this, and this? You're telling me we can't say go left or right? Like, this isn't going to cause an implosion here. Like, why do we have to run this through him? And then my team, I started challenging them. I learned, you referenced learning to be a manager. And it takes a decade. I have been through it. I can tell you I've got kind of an idea what I'm doing now. And I always claim to be a people's person. I mean, always. I can walk up, shake your hand, talk with you, no big deal. But, and carry on a conversation like we've been friends for 10 years. But at the same time, you just get so wore down with people. Even an I think the word is extrovert, not opposite of introvert. But now I've become an introvert because I got to go, back then I was having to run and hide just to get 15 minutes of my, not a decision or not a question and I wasn't getting anything done that I needed to get done because I was too busy working on in the business stuff that I should have never been involved with. And so just like you did, sir, you just started. You started writing processes down. All right, team, what do we think about this process? What do we think about this plan? Well, I think it's stupid. Well, thank you, Bobby. I needed that input. Hey, at least he's giving us some input. Why do you think it's stupid, Mr. Bob? Well, this and this is going to cause us this. Okay, but did you realize when you give me this and this information, the bookkeepers, the estimator, they get all this information in real time to give them a better opportunity maybe to bid the job differently because you coded your labor or a little bit differently and it took you longer than the estimate. Maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe it was the estimator. Maybe we haven't had any production rates come back to him. But did you know when you code your daily log and code your costs in for the day that the bookkeeper can now bring the P&L forward halfway through the month or whatever the case may be? A lot of times I don't think teams understand how much they affect one another. And especially in the construction trade, you have office and you got field, and it is this the entire time. And especially if you don't have leadership at the top that can go gain the respect of the field and go jump in the middle of the field, just like you, Mr. Ed. When a move gone wrong, guess where Mr. Ed was going? He was going to take care of the move, to take care of the customer, take care of his crew, take care of everybody. Well, that's what good working owners do. But you're just taking time away. Was there a system? Was there a process? How did we get here? Not just topical. I'm talking about root of the problem. And guess what? A lot of times, just like I said a couple weeks ago, guys, the problem's you. Half the time, the problem is you. And being able to identify it, get out of the way, come to a round table and go, guys, I'm sorry. I didn't even realize that you guys were building resentment on something that I was standing in the way from, that I didn't even know that was this big of a problem until Estimator came and brought it to light to me. So building those teams, but learning how to be a manager to effectively not just manage the systems and the structures and the accountabilities of those such, but managing the individual people within those systems. They need to be taught to differently. They need to be motivated differently. They need to be reprimanded differently. Like what's important to me is probably not as important to you, Mr. Ed. Like that's just natural, right? We all have our own importances. And when you start finding out those personal importances, you can really start self-elevating and empowering your team by doing things outside of talking about the job most of the time. But it's the belief that, your former employee, Ian, he feels that reassurance when he's going to make that decision. And that's what a lot of folks need. They can figure it out themselves, but they need that reassurance. But what they don't realize a lot of times, Mr. Ed, is that we ain't got a freaking clue either. We're just guessing. And so all we can do is go back and go, all right, experience lens, where does this take me? What happened last time when we were in this situation and what bit me? And so where I was trying to travel with all of this, sir, is that, when you start producing out in the field, start dealing with that team, jiving with the office to get that culture. It's all about culture and getting them to mesh and making sure they understand that their job duty affects this person's job duty, but it may not be in the way that you think. Whether she's complaining because you make her, or the bookkeeper's complaining at you because you approve all your costs a day before she's got to have the report in, and she's got to stay 3 hours late, and she misses a ball game or whatever the case may be. But that's what they don't know. And as more you identify those problems as a team, flesh them out, build systems and processes as a team. Don't just sit there in your freaking office, crank out 80 of them, go, hey guys, there's your playbook, run it. And because it's not successful that way. So with that being said, truly, the one thing I want to kind of put a door in that, and I wanted to kind of go back to your spider cranes and your space gobblers for just a minute, because in that moment, sir, that you're on your knees praying, absolutely breaking you down to nothing. It's so funny, though, how the Lord works, because in the moment that you thought you were completely out, you were wrote off, you were done, you were going bankrupt, everybody that worked for you going to have to go find a job, the bank's pissed, everybody's going to hate you, and you thought your life was over, was the exact moment that actually took and set you apart, not just here in your market, not just regionally, but across the entire planet. And I hope that's encouragement for somebody today to hear that, because a lot of times when you're running this business thing, you get 5-10 years down the road, and there's still things that you haven't really propped up for the stool yet, per se, but you're just running and you're like, man, this isn't going to ever get any better. And then all of a sudden this huge catastrophic problem comes and you're just like, we're done. We're just done. No, I would encourage you, turn to the big man above, say a prayer, because there's a reason he's brought you here. Because there's something that he's trying to show you. It may be adversity. It may hurt real bad, but adversity builds who you are.
Amen.
Adversity builds character. But
Amen.
I just wanted to shine light on that little segment, because that is so cool. And to see that, man, yeah, this ginormous, huge guy comes in. And the other last thing I guess I want to mention is that you were dealing in market saturation in the 1980s and 90s. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we're up here in 26. and everybody's talking, wants to pull that card. Well, there's just so many people doing it. There's just so many people. People are just going, especially in my world, they're just going and buying a skid steer and everybody's a dirt guy. We got to figure out how to beat them. You got to figure out how to be better than them, offer a different service, but not getting away too far from the main service. So that it's just unbelievably crazy to sit here and think about how you felt in that moment as you're lifting that crane up with a suction cup, knowing everybody around you is going to think you're an absolute moron. And then it turns into what it did and made you who you are. But then you started helping others along the way learn all of these other valuable mistakes that you're like, well, I don't have it all figured out, but I got this piece figured out. Let me help others. So that's just too cool.
Do you know anybody in your industry that has said to you, if they're a manager, that they say, I'm not going to babysit grown men. If he can't do it, I'm going to find someone who can. Is that only unique to the moving industry? Because we have operations managers that I've trained over the years that tell me that what I just said, they're not going to babysit grown men. If he can't do it, I'm going to find someone who can. Is that ever said in your industry too?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. That's not a manager, because that's called delegating. That's not managing. I teach and preach. Managing means you, manager, are personally responsible for the performance and the behavior of the people that you're over. That's what I say. And one of the things I did as a manager, the last 3 years of my life at Peachtree Movers were wonderful because I had all these processes and procedures in place. I was Mr. Quality Control guy. So I'd go out on jobs and show up. Do you think they liked it when I showed up on a job? Hell no, they didn't like Mr. Katz in their face.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed there are 2 lateral file cabinets sitting in the office that are full. And I look inside the truck and the spider crane is still on the back of the truck. And I'm asking myself, wait a second, we're at the new location. They moved them full. And the spider crane is still padded and tied up on the back of the truck. So I go and I learn you don't ever do it in front of an audience. I call the supervisor aside. I play dumb. I say I'm confused. I see the spider crane on the truck, but I see the 2 lateral file cabinets in the office. Well, Mr. Katz, it was only 2 of them, so it wasn't necessary. I said, let me tell you something. We have convinced this customer that the only reason that we got this move is because we were the only mover that can move it full safely. You just moved it like all the other movers that don't have the spider crane. I made the pain of doing it right less painful than being humiliated by me. I'm not going to tell you how I humiliated them. By the way, I never cursed and never yelled at my employees. Look at me for a second. I look at them in the eyes. I don't know if you can see me right now, but I look at them in the eyes. I said, what is our policy for lateral file cabinets, removing lateral file cabinets? And I look at them like this, and then I'd shut up. And I'd stare at them, and I'd stare at them, and I'd stare at them. And I didn't have to say a word. They wanted to crawl inside their skins because I humiliated them. And they knew darn well what the policy was. And they knew, I mean, I could give you hundreds of examples like that. I'm not going to bore you. So then I taught the supervisors, you are responsible for their performance. I go out and they put a wheel chalk under the tire, under the rear tire. You ready for this step? They put it on the back side of the tire instead of the front, and the truck's, the nose is lower than the back. So in other words, they put it on the wrong side of the tire. And I had the supervisor come down to the street, and I pointed out to him. He said, I'll go move it. I said, stop right now. He said, well, I told Lucius to put the wheel chalk out. And I said, and what did I tell you? Tell me what your job, why you get more money than the mover helpers. Tell me, Philip, why do you get more money? I'm responsible for that. That's right. You need to go behind them all the time, because if that truck rolls, that wheel chalk behind the tire is not going to stop this big truck. They got it. And then tied to that, interestingly enough, was our mission statement. You know, a lot of companies have these 3-4 paragraph mission statements. Hell no. We keep it simple. You know what ours was? Become the most user-friendly office mover in Atlanta. That's it. And you think that's all it was? I'd go up to my employees on an irregular but consistent basis. A day didn't go by where I didn't go up to an entry-level mover, a foreman, a driver, a supervisor, a bookkeeper, a customer service person, a salesperson. And I go into the bookkeeper's office. Lou, what's our mission statement? I know, Mr. Katz, to become the most user-friendly office mover in Atlanta. Good for you. Do you have any ideas? Well, actually, Mr. Katz, I do. We do all the moves for Holiday Inn headquarters, all the moves for Rockwell, all the moves for SunTrust. And they always tell us we're late in getting their bills out. They give us the lion's share of our revenue and profits. Maybe when we do jobs for them, we could put their billing on top of the pile, even though they were last in, we can have them first out because they are who they are. I said, Lou, that's brilliant. See, mission statement, most user-friendly. The other jobs were important, but not as important as those three who gave us like 40% of our profits, right? I go up to my movers all the time. They don't even want to look in my eyes when I talk to them. Dexter, what's our mission statement? To become user. No, not to become user. To become easy to do business with. Have you thought of it? Well, Mr. Katz, actually, I did. Our space gobblers, our airbags we insert inside of desk drawers. I figured out a way of moving blueprint files, flat files with Mylar prints in them, full safely. I said, no, come on, Dexter. No, really. And he showed me. I couldn't believe it. So now not only can we move lateral file desk full with space gobblers, we got a giant move for Southern Bell, which was now Bell South, which became AT&T. We got a move for them. They had 46 flat files, 3 stacked high. We moved them all full. They couldn't believe it. It took us a day to prepare them with space gobblers. I used like 800 space gobblers to fill in all the drawers. We did it. We got the move because of that. That was Dexter Cook's idea. So my point is the mission statement was a tool, and I would go up to them all the time. They were, as I said, they're the ones that touch the customer. They had these ideas. Isn't that amazing?
It's truly amazing. And, it's a testament, Mr. Ed. You have your mission statement. For years, I heard about core values and mission statements, and you just used it in the perfect way of an example. And I didn't realize how big of a tool it can be for us at the top, because not only it's now an accountability piece, and it's something we agreed to together. Like when I sat down, did our core values, brought it to the team, anything we need to change. There's 7 core values there, from family first, safety, accountability drives excellence. I can go on. But now, as okay, somebody screwed up and ordered too much gravel or whatever the case may be, and I have to go out to site, and we got to have us talk about it, or the superintendent's pissed off, or whatever the case may be. Go out there. Okay, give me the scenario. Well, now that doesn't really sound like core value number 3 and number 4, does it? So where did we fall short as leaders that our core values, this is who we are trying to be as people and how we're trying to run this company. How did that representation of us, back to them, fit all of these core values? Well, it didn't, sir. Exactly. So we need to fix us. Now that we've addressed us, now we've addressed, hey, we didn't put this in the documentation log, or we didn't get this RFI in, or whatever it is. We've got that handled. Now let's go deal with the problem together. We've dealt with us. It's not always at them. I feel people are, and I was too. I was so quick to point to it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you. Man, guys, there's 3 fingers pointing right back at you every time you're pointing. Check here first. Start here first, especially when it's dealing with people and leadership, because it's so much easier to come into a conversation to have a base point, a mission statement, a core value, whatever it may be, and go, hey, we've agreed on this together. This is who we are. This is who we represent ourselves. But it also, to your point, Mr. Ed, it brings great thinking ability to them, because it kind of takes the weight of, well, should I do this or not? Well, that's not a part of our core. This would be, right? And so, but when they come up with a new idea or something that, And I'm not just talking about in the field. I'm talking about systematically. I'm talking about procedurally. I'll get a phone call about once a week at this point. One supers will call me, "Hey, what do you think about this? Let me just run this by you, and this and that and this and that, and this should affect Dylan, but how would this affect bookkeeping? And I don't know that. Can you tell me that?" And I'm like, I just get so pumped up because the years we have spent working on the culture, working on the systems, working on the processes are really, truly starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Another example, more systems and processes. A big thing in our world is if whatever bucket is estimated on that excavator better be on that excavator when we go to put whatever we're installing in the ground. That one thing can swing a job. If you're running a 2-foot ditch, backfilled and compacted with base rock, well, then you just added 12 inches for 1,000 feet, but you just swung the whole job. And so to counteract that, I've got an estimator here sitting here talking about, man, we're going to be tight on this job. I bid this job 8 or 9 months ago. I've kind of gone back to them for some, back and forth material hikes, etc. But we really can't get any more on it. It fits us. Goes to the PM, not to me. Goes to the PM, discusses it with Jesus, and really materializes this. Then they come to me and go, "Hey, look, so I think we're short on this job here and here." And this is before we've ever stepped foot on the job, which is so cool. These guys are coming to me and going, "Hey, it's bid with a 2-foot. We got a 1-foot bucket for that machine, and I'm pretty sure we'll be safe. That'll shrink our gravel. That'll be able to do this or do that." And I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. That's great. Well, what does that save us?" "Well, about the money we were looking for." And I'm like, before we even started the job, we fixed a big old crisis here that we would have been looking at the end of the job and going, "Man, why did we lose money?" But it's driving those systems. That's all I was trying to do here, guys, is drive Mr. Ed's point home, is that all of the things that you're begging and waiting for to happen with your team, they're just waiting on you to do it. And you got to be the first one to do it. You got to put these systems and these processes in place, and then hold yourself accountable to them. Watch your team watch you hold yourself accountable and go, "Guys, dang it, we set this system up and I totally kiboshed it. I apologize. Walk me through so I can see what your end result's going to be, so I know for next time that I don't cause this frustration." And it's those little things. And a lot of people, to your point, Mr. Ed, they look at it and they're, "Oh, that's a waste of time. That's a waste. I got bigger things." No. How wrong you are. That is the most valuable time you can be spending throughout the day. It's one-on-one working with a superintendent, one-on-one working with an estimator, PM, or, lumpers, or whoever it may be in your trade. The more they can learn from you at the top, specifically detailed and cleared information, the better they can be throughout every single day, striving for success. So those are some unbelievable good points, sir.
The way I rewarded Lou and Dexter and all the other ones that gave me ideas, I wrote them a handwritten personal note. And I found out many times, I learned this from a mentor. This is not Ed Katz's idea. They took those notes home. Lou showed it to her husband and her friends. Dexter showed it to his wife and his girlfriend. Right. But anyhow, welcome to my world. That meant so much to them. And I would write those notes and letters, and that meant something to them. I don't know how much time we have, but I would like to mention one thing. If anybody would like a free copy of my most successful book, you're going to say, "Well, it doesn't apply to us. We're in the construction industry." It does apply. You're in a service industry. This is all about a service industry. I can send them a PDF copy. If they email me, I'll be more than happy to give them a PDF copy they can read on their computer or on their phone if they're interested. I'll be more than happy. It's got a lot of nuggets of information, just like our conversation today, Si, that would, I think, be definitely applicable to what you guys do for a living.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Do they have access to my email?
So give it to them if you want to, sir.
It's Ed, E-D, K-A-T-Z, Ed Katz at the word office, OFFICE, the word moves, plural, MOVES.com. And I'll be more than happy to send it to you. It's really been quite successful.
Well, guys, as you know, as you can tell, within the short amount of time that we've sat with Mr. Ed, he is a wealth of knowledge. I encourage you, reach out to him. He took my phone call out of being out of the blue, surprised him. Hey, this is who I am. These are the problems I'm dealing with. Can you help me? With that said, if you want to get a hold of him, his email is a great way to do that. He shot me a call the next day. If you're in the moving world, please reach out to Mr. Ed. He's going to help you in some way, somehow. He is the godfather of the moving world, and we just heard why. And just the unbelievable just grind that you went through to get to where you're at today, sir. So commendable and so respectable. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing it with us. But I do have one more question for you, and I think you'll have a great answer here, sir. I ask everybody that comes on the show, maybe take yourself back to when you were working as a lumper, but those guys that are just sitting there thinking, man, I'm never going to get through this job. I'm never going to get anywhere. What am I doing? My wife's mad at me, or maybe I don't have a wife yet. And they're just absolutely down in the dumps, and they're just not thinking life's going to take them anywhere. But they're just truly tired of being stuck in the same cycle, stuck in the mud per se, mentally, physically, emotionally. What would you say to them today, sir?
Don't give up. I always like to say the 3 P's that it just evolved over the years. The 3 P's: patience, persistence, perseverance. What I didn't stir in was my lovely wife from New York. When I moved the family to Atlanta, 3 months later, she said, either you come back to New York or I'm divorcing you. She took the kids back to New York. My real estate company, over that 12-month period, failed. I had a college degree that was worthless, right? Ended up being a mover helper. I never gave up. I kept saying to myself, I'm just not gonna let it get to me. I just have to believe I'm here on this planet. And look, every day when I wake up and the earth is below me instead of above me, I'm grateful. I really am. And before my final bell tolls, and looking back over my life, if I can say I improved the quality of service in local office moving, even by 2%, I will think I've died and gone to heaven. That's all. Don't give up. Everybody has shit going on in their lives. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Everybody has shit going on in their lives. And you have a choice. You can be a victim or you can be a survivor. I have no idea what's in store for me now. I mean, just getting out of bed in the morning, it really is an act of Congress. I go to this high-end gym with all these old people, my age and older, younger, but mostly old people. And all they talk about, I got a sore shoulder, my hip surgery, I got cancer and all that. As soon as they start whining to me, I go like this: 1-800 nursing home, because get over it. Where does it say we're not supposed to have stress? Where was it written, guaranteed, that we're not supposed to have pressure, stress, problems? Come on. Enjoy yourself. Every day is a gift. We could get nuked tomorrow. We could be vaporized. You're going to worry about, well, am I going to make much money on this job? You better look at the big picture and thank God for every day that we have, because you never know.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
The man said it himself. Mr. Ed, thank you for the wealth of wisdom today. I'm sitting here processing some of the things that you said, and I could dive off in for a whole nother episode. And honestly, I think this is going to be a wonderful episode. And I think the audience is really going to relate to it in so many different ways. And maybe we have you back on for a diver deep of where you're at in the world and how you can help and maybe get some questions. I'd love to hear if you are a moving company out there and you've been listening to the show for a while, please reach out to me if you can't get a hold of or need Mr. Ed's email. I'd love to put you in connection in some way, somehow.
I'll give you
his world.
You want my phone number?
Oh, well, that's totally up to you, sir.
I got thousands of movers in Atlanta to have my cell phone number. Might as well give it to you guys too.
There you go.
It's 404-358-2172. 404-358-2172. And it's probably worth what it's going to cost you, nothing. So, I mean, I'm just telling you, you'd be surprised. Warren Buffett was put on the board of directors for Coca-Cola. And they said, why in the world would you put Warren Buffett on the board of directors for Coca-Cola? He's not from the beverage industry. He doesn't know anything about it. That's an advantage. He doesn't know you can't do it the way he wants you to think about doing it. It's good to have somebody also, not just from your industry, but also from outside your industry, someone like me, maybe, if you're in construction, to bounce ideas off it. Because you already know what you can't do, right? Everybody's, I tried that in another city, or I tried that on a different project, it won't work and all that. You have someone like me that doesn't know anything about construction. I may have an idea that's a fresh idea that you never thought of. I don't know.
Yep. No, wonderful words, sir. And guys, truly have enjoyed this episode. Hope you have too. Hit some key points home. Don't give up. That's such a good one. That truly is. I'm in the middle of don't give up too. And truly, if you guys are looking for somebody, mentor, go find one. Don't just sit there and chew on it. Go find somebody that's done it, that can help you past it. Guys, if you wouldn't mind sharing this out, sharing an episode out, telling somebody about the show, I really appreciate it. We have gathered up quite the following this year. There's some crazy things in the works, and I'm really excited to be sharing those with you guys as they come down the pipe. But until then, we're going to keep coming at you at 5 a.m. on Wednesdays every single week, and truly looking forward to helping and being an impact out there with you guys this year. So till then, you guys be safe, and we'll talk at you then. Hey guys, welcome to the Blue Collar Business Podcast, where we discuss the realest, rawest, most relevant stories and strategies behind building every corner of a blue collar business. I'm your host, Cy Kirby, and I want to help you in what it took me, trial and error, and a whole lot of money to learn. The information that no one in this industry is willing to share. Whether you're under that shade tree or have your hard hat on, let's expand your toolbox.